Hi. Hello. Um, Fun fact, I forgot where the go live button was in StreamYard. That's how long it's been since I streamed. Um, Took me a minute to find it. I think it's live. I hope it's live. I was already speaking to myself before, but now it says live and now I'm speaking to myself again. So that's all good. And I mean, fits with the title of this stream, which is that I am a rambling, angsty nerd, which I am. I do tend to ramble a lot, and I do tend to have a lot of angst. And I do consider myself a nerd. So there you go. Rambling, angsty nerd. Hi, Irish Mart. So nice to see you. Thanks for popping in. Hi, Afila. Good to see you. Basically, the title is, self-explanatory. And actually, I haven't planned what I was going to say, but I do have some note cards because I am a nerd and I make note cards and different subjects on here that I have been considering talking about. And and I was thinking I would just ramble on about them, and hopefully some of what I say makes sense. And if not, I'm sorry. Hi, T. Hi, nice to see you. Anyways, I, being raised in the Sea Org, do not know how to take a vacation. It's something I'm having to practice, and I will say I'm not very good at it because I tend to use my vacations to take courses at university over the summer, which is not much of a vacation. Hi, Kathy. I have realized that I should probably learn how to use my vacations to sit back and relax and actually not do productivity things, not take courses at uni, maybe. Not that there's anything wrong with taking courses at uni. I like doing it. I love learning new things. I even say, so there's a phrase in Swedish that is man lär sig så länge man lever, which translated is you learn for as long as you're alive. But I have switched that around because I don't think that's true. I think some people get to a certain point in learning and then they just stop learning and then they stay very stuck in their ways and they're apparently still alive. So I tend to say that du lever så länge du lär dig, which is you're alive for as long as you're learning. Hi, Susan King. And I think that's true. I think you're only as alive as you are continuously learning and developing, I guess, growing. I don't really like talking about personal growth because I always think about statistics when I hear the word growth, and I don't like thinking about statistics. But learning is my thing. And this summer, I am taking a course that I should have seen would be one massive trigger for me. Sorry, if you guys hear like clicking in the background, that's my new fidget toy. I'm sorry. Basically, I'm taking a course on children being raised in minority religions, which obviously I was, and this subject could be a massive trigger for me, and it kind of is. And I was thinking that I would go into it as a scholar, and scholars are objective, and they look at the data and they objectively report on the data. And if this was research, which it's not, it's just a course. It's just a little summer course. It's no big deal. But if this was research, like if I was an academic, which I'm not, but if I was, and I was doing research, this would be something I would have to disclose in my research methodology, the ethical position of the fact that me being raised in a controversial minority religion, which is the term that they like to use in this course instead of cult, that studying child raising in controversial minority religions would have a severe impact on objectivity, to say the least. About this on it. It's awesome. Please give yourself grace and take care of yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I don't give myself grace. I should practice that. I should practice being on vacation and giving myself grace. But yeah, I do like learning, and I do feel like I am getting a lot out of this course when I'm not being triggered by it. And it's quite interesting to see what triggers me and what doesn't. That's definitely changed through the years. Yeah. Anyways, so I thought I would talk a little bit about my course. And that's what I'm going to ramble about. And it's kind of nerdy. It's very nerdy. It's a very, very niche subject, taught by kind of niche subject area, department, institutions. Okay. Anyways, doesn't matter. The course is about children being raised in controversial minority religions. And for the course, I have done already quite a bit of reading and still have more to do. Escaping Utopia by Janja Lalich and Carla McLaren, which is backwards for you guys, I think. Hi, Helgeri. I've already read this one before. Actually, but I was planning on taking this course last summer. It only goes during the summer, unfortunately. If it was given during the spring, I would have taken it in the spring. But so I got this book last summer in anticipation for the course, but then there was a lot of work stuff, and I knew I wouldn't have the energy actually to take the course last summer. So I pushed up to this year. So I had already read this before the course actually started, but this is part of the course, Escaping Utopia. I've already done a few videos on information from this book, and I have spoken about reading excerpts from it to you earlier, and I will do that still. I have read this Swedish book called Guds nya barnbarn, God's New Grandchildren. There is actually an English version of this book, but there it's called Children in Minority Religions, and not God's New Grandchildren. It's a pretty thick book. It's very academically written. It's a heavy academic book. And as you can see, I had a lot of opinions on it. Yep. This book is almost entirely, it's like the interviews that this book is based on is 80% current members. So there are 12 Scientology interviews in this book, or 12 interviews from people in Scientology or with a relationship to Scientology, where only 2 of them have left, and 2 or 3 of them have left, and all the others are still in. So interviews mainly current members of whatever group. There are several groups discussed in this book, whereas Escaping Utopia is 100% ex-members. And I have read this little book. This is an ebook that I printed it off because I don't read well from a screen. I need paper, and I need paper to make notes on. So this is also a book on children in minority religions, and I'm also reading this article of approximately 50 pages, which is actually a government investigation into the situation of children in new minority religions in Sweden. And then I'll be reading this book, which is about what has happened to children who grew up in religions. And then I'm reading this book, which I just started on, which is about a very specific little group here in Sweden called Knutby. That's going to be interesting. And then I read this article called The Scientific Study of Religion, You Must Be Joking, by apparently world-renowned Eileen Barker, who has a little bit of a sense of humor, but not that much to title it You Must Be Joking. And then I read this little article in Swedish, it's a couple of pages, called Religious Freedom for Children, ? Ends in a question mark. And I was thinking today I might discuss Eileen Barker, some stuff that she brings up in Scientific Study of Religion, You Must Be Joking. That's the title. You can find it online. And then I was thinking I might get into the subject of religious freedom for children, because I found that these two articles in particular raise my blood pressure. I guess that's what you call it. A lot of the cult stories that I've read so far in this course, I'm somewhat familiar with already. And while they're heavy to read, I've been processing that type of information for a long time. Yeah. Okay, there's some chats. Let me just see if I can catch up. Hej Helge, hej Mirakelkulan. Let's see. Har du berättat för kursledaren att du har personlig... So the question is, if I have told the course leader, the professor, if I was myself raised in a cult. So I'm going to use the word cult. The professor does not use that word. She uses new religious movements or minority religious movements or controversial minority religion. I have not told her. So when I started the course, I was thinking I'm going to try to approach this objectively as far as possible. I'm going to keep a scholarly, objective, aura. Try to appear professional was my goal. And I had also decided at the beginning of the course, since I knew that there are 2 written assignments in this course, and then there are a whole bunch of seminars you have to go to. But there are 2 written assignments, and for both of those assignments, you kind of get to pick which group you're interested in. And I had decided at the beginning of the course, I would not pick Scientology. I changed my mind almost immediately. I did hand in my first paper last week, and I definitely wrote about Scientology in that one. And I tried to stay very factual and objective, as one is supposed to do in academics. I actually got the grade back today. I got the highest grade that you can get in this course on that paper, which is very nice. It counts for 1/3 of the grade in total. So we'll see. Gave me a lot of performance anxiety about the next paper that I have to turn in. She did not make any comments on whether it seemed I was biased or anything like that. And I don't know. I don't know if she knows. She might actually recognize my last name. She might not. I think she started studying this after my grandmother was a very known figure of Scientology here in Sweden. So I don't know if she recognizes my last name. And yeah, she hasn't said anything. I haven't said anything. I don't know if I will. Maybe I will at the end. We'll see. I don't know. But I decided I didn't. Well, I was at first going to tell her at the start because I was kind of worried about triggers. But I've been handling that. That's okay. And I also decided not to because I also feel like I want to be graded like anybody else. I don't want my past experiences to in any way color her assessments of my coursework, basically. So I haven't told her. And I probably will at the end of the course. Yeah. She did say during the first... Hi, Miriam. Oh, wrong one. Hi to Kathy and Irish as well. She did say during the first lecture that during the seminars, it's a pretty big class. There are 100 students in the class, and we do seminars in smaller groups. And she did say at the start that whenever you're in a seminar, please be, just if you have comments on a certain group, don't be like, oh, those guys are idiots. Just, be academic and objective and use the information in the course, because apparently every year there is at least one former or current member of some group taking this course. And I feel like, the course is super interesting. It is very interesting. It is not what I thought it was going to be when I started. I did think it would be more psychology, and it's not. It's sociology. And that's okay. I also find that interesting. I have actually studied sociology before. It was in studying sociology that kind of got me thinking that maybe the way I grew up probably wasn't, awesome. So yeah. Let's see. This question here. Escaping Utopia. No, it's possible. There's a book called Escaping Utopia about that. This book is called Escaping Utopia, Growing Up in a Cult, Getting Out and Starting Over. And it's research into the effects of having grown up in a cult, and all the information gathered, all the data gathered for this book is exclusively from ex-members who grew up in cults. And they do use the word cult in that book. So, yeah. I'm getting lots of congratulations for, I guess, the grade, because I got a good grade. I was actually surprised because I usually get not so great grades because my Swedish is not generally on an academic level. But I worked really hard. I read through the paper several times, and then I also had my partner read through it, and he helped me with some of the grammar and stuff. And so, yeah, it was good. Scientology Geek is hi, Scientology Geek, Holly. Nice to see you. Let's see. Do you find it really hard to read, like triggering? So I missed a bit. Kids. I generally don't find it that triggering. So I would say I've worked on my personal triggers to the point where I don't have the same type of like PTSD reactions like I used to have. I don't like I will say, I still say triggered because I don't know how else to put it. I don't have like an immediate and reaction that kind of like takes over my body. It's not like PTSD the way I used to have. But what happens is I'll notice over time that I get kind of depressed. I get kind of existential angst, and I kind of go into dark space, and it kind of tends to spiral a bit. If you know, so I try to break up the reading. I also, while I'm taking this course, I'm not watching any culty YouTube, ex-Scientology YouTube at all. I have popped into a few channels to say hi and then jumped out again. But trying to keep the exposure of Scientology to a minimum while I'm doing this course, because I'm already being exposed to Scientology quite a bit in this course. One thing that has been annoying me is the people who have written these books and materials have never been Scientologists themselves, so they don't have all the nuance. They don't have all the information. They only have the information that they have been able to get from interviews with members, and they try to get first. They did. There's a list in one of the books of all the L. Ron Hubbard books that they read for this research. But it's very obvious that they went to the Church of Scientology and said like, hey, we're looking into how to raise children in Scientology. Give us your books on that. So in one section, for example, they talk about the views of medical care, health and medical care, and whether children have access to medical care in the different religious groups that they've been studying. And for the Scientology bit chapter, there's a whole chapter on Scientology in that book. And for the Scientology chapter, they talk a lot about assists and vitamins and the purification rundown and auditing to cure psychosomatic issues. They never once bring up PTS, potential trouble source, which if you've been in Scientology, you know that if you're sick, you're a potential trouble source. They never once bring that up, probably because when they asked for information from the Church of Scientology, they were not given that information. So I can get kind of annoyed about that. So yeah, I would say I don't get triggered the way I used to get triggered. I don't usually have panic attacks or anything like that. But I do tend to spiral if I consume too much stuff on the subject, which is why I'm currently limiting the amount of YouTube that I watch on this subject, just so that it doesn't like overflow me. So thanks for the question though. Oh, I think there are more people. If I miss saying hi to you, I'm sorry. I do want to say hi to everyone. Hi, Antics of a Mama Squirrel. Hi, Corn Freak. I hope I've said hi to everybody. And if not, it wasn't on purpose. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting course. It's raised a lot of questions for me about how I want to move forward after this course. It's raised questions for me about how I want to move forward, or if I want to move forward with YouTube. Yeah, stuff like that. And now I just feel like I'm rambling again, but that's okay because that's in the title. And if you're here and it says rambling in the title, you just have to accept that. Sorry, those are the rules that I just made up. Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about this article I read, The Scientific Study of Religion. You must be joking. I will see if I can get the link and link it, but you could probably just Google it and find it online. It's a kind of old article, pretty sure, from 1993. So yeah, that's pretty old. And it's taken, I think, and based on a speech that was given at a national conference. And one of the precipitating events to writing this article for this person is something called the cult wars, which I have never really read about previously, and I'm finding it a little bit interesting, and I think I might want to look into it a little bit more, but I also think it's probably just a waste of time. But basically, the cult wars, I'm going to try to explain it a little bit. But before I do that, I gotta explain something else. And I'm going to use my whiteboard, and I hope you guys are going to be able to read it. Or I might have to write backwards live, and that's going to be really awkward. Is this backwards for you guys? It's backwards for me when I hold it up to the screen. Is it backwards for you guys? Oh no. Somebody tell me. Can you guys read this? Oh, look at my ring light. It's super explicit. Can you read it, or is it backwards? Nobody's answering. Well, since nobody's answered, I'm just going to put on more. You can read it. Okay. Yes, it says NRM. Well, I can't do anything about the bad handwriting. Sorry. That's nothing's going to work. But I do like the fact that in Scientology and in Sociology of Religion, we use a lot of acronyms, 3-letter acronyms. Okay, so let me tell you what this is. NRM stands for New Religious Movements. It's kind of a largely accepted term in the field of study of religion, and it's used, new religious, that there's a lot of critique about it, and there's a lot of infighting about should it be, well, what's new, what's a new religion, and stuff like that. But basically, new religious movements, or minority religious movements, or controversial religious movements, or stuff like that. Or you could just say cults, because we're on my channel and this is not an academic paper. So you could also just say cults, which I'm going to write here. Cults. Okay. And then we have SOR, which is Sociology of Religion, which is the academic learning departments that this course is being given in. So my professor is a professor of Sociology of Religion. And what is Sociology of Religion? It's basically people who study religion not to figure out what religious groups believe in, although that is part of it. It's more to figure out what does that do for the group. So if you're in a religious group, how do you construct your reality? What are your daily rituals? What are your things that you celebrate? How is your group constructed? Is it democratic? Does it have hierarchies? What are the gender roles and the power balances within a group? And also, how does the group interact with people not in the group? So these are the things that Sociology of Religion are interested in. Why do people do what they do based on the belief system they have? And how do they interact with each other? And how do they interact with people who are not part of the group. So yeah. And then the other player on the board here is ACM, the anti-cult movement. So the anti-cult movement, the very first organized group of people anti-occult was in reaction to the Children of God cult. I'm going to call them a cult. My professor calls them a new religious movement. I'm going to call them a cult. Children of God was really, really big. They started in the very late 60s or early 70s. I'm not sure. They got pretty big. They were worldwide. They are almost non-existent today. Thankfully, as far as I'm aware, they're almost non-existent today. But one thing that they did do was they moved their members around all over the globe. So they were constantly being moved between countries. And a lot of people lost their young adult children to this group. And so the very first organized group of people acting against the cult was in direct response to Children of God. I don't remember exactly what the group was called, but they were called something like Free Our Children from Children of God. And then they had a Fred Cog, weird acronym name. Anyways, they started in the early 70s, I think. Then during the 80s and during the Satanic Panic in the United States, if you don't know about the Satanic Panic and you would like more on that, I could put in some links after, or I could do a video on it maybe. I don't have any academic amount of knowledge on the Satanic Panic. I do know a little bit about it. But in the 80s, late 80s, in the United States, there was this thing called the Satanic Panic, and people got really, really worried about cults, especially the satanic kind, which there are very few of. But people got really worried about cults. And like anti-cult movements started popping up. And this is when you had people who were kidnapping cult members or members of groups to try to deprogram them and get them out of the cult, which you shouldn't do. You shouldn't kidnap people. I understand why you would want to, but it's been proven to not work. I'm just gonna pop this up. Your father fell hard for the Satanic Panic. A lot of people did. I didn't even know about it because, I was a little baby. But yeah, a lot of people fell hard for that. And yes, Children of God were absolutely vile, horrific. For sure. There's some interesting books written about them. I haven't read them, but we got a little bit of information about that during one of the lectures. It was pretty interesting. Children of God were so convinced that they were good that they actually invited scholars to come and live with them a lot in, I think it was the late 80s or early 90s. And yeah, I mean, Scientology has never invited religious scholars or scholars otherwise to come and hang out and live with the Sea Org for a couple months just to see what we're all about. I mean, that would never happen with Scientology. And most cults do not let people in. So that was kind of interesting. Hi, Anders. Nice to see you. Anyways, so there is there's a relationship going on between these guys. And in the article that I read, she made a big table over all the different players on the scene and what they're trying to do and how they're doing it and so on. And I was at first thinking I would go through this whole table, but I'm not gonna. It's really, really long. These are the main guys, and this is what's happening. The new religious movements. So you have sociology of religion, oh, you guys can't see. You have sociology of religion, and they want to study new religious movements. So they're like, hey, can we interview you guys? Can we read your materials? Can we come live with you for a little bit and see what's going on? And the new religious movements are controlling or trying to control what sociology of religion is having access to. New religious movements are trying to shut down or destroy the anti-cult movement. And we saw this with Scientology and CAN. CAN was the Cult Awareness Network, one of the first and largest anti-cult movements in America. And they went after Scientology in the early 90s, which was a mistake because Scientology, just after tax exemption in the early 90s, were very powerful and very litigious. And Scientology took down CAN and own it. So you can still find a help call number to the Cult Awareness Network in America, and that number goes to Scientology. Anyways, new religious movements trying to shut down or destroy the anti-cult movements. The anti-cult movements, that was not a very nice line, is trying to shut down and destroy. I have to redraw that, guys. That looks horrible. They're trying to shut down and destroy the new religious movements. For the most part, maybe not always, but for the most part, I would say that's kind of what's going on. Now, here is where the cult wars happened between the anti-cult movements and sociology of religion. And you're like, what? Cult wars between here? Yeah, that's what it's called. The cult wars of the 1990s is what it's called. And basically, I'm going to draw it like that. They were at war. Sociology of religion was like, hey, we're studying this group and they've granted us some interviews and we've been to the compound and we've looked at them and here are our findings, and published a neutral, objective, this is what we've seen, this is what can be proven about this group. And then the anti-cult movement says you've had the wool pulled over your eyes, you're believing all the lies that the cult is telling you, and you haven't taken into account the information from the ex-cult members, and basically you're condoning the actions of the cult, which is not okay. And the anti-cult movement tried to take down or shut down and destroy sociology of religion. Those were the cult wars. And yeah, I hadn't heard of this before. I knew there has been some tension. I know Scientology paid or funded research into Scientology, and there was some professor who wrote, oh yeah, Scientology looks really awesome. But yeah, and that is always an issue because sociology of religion is, almost all research is usually funded by someone. So whenever you look at a research paper, you also have to ask yourself the question, who's funding it, right? So anyways, there's a whole war going on between these two factions. Not so much today, apparently, though I can see how they still are at odds with each other. And I kind of got uncomfortable when I saw that the anti-cult movements, in some of the papers that I read and so on, the actions of the anti-cult movements, behaving kind of culty. They're like, hey, sociology of religion, you're either with us or against us. You either against the cult and therefore with us, or you're not against the cult, therefore not with us and with the cult. And that's kind of, a little bit culty. And then I also get very annoyed with sociology of religion and some of the books and papers that I'm reading now, academic journals and so on, in that the goal to stay objective can, in my opinion, sometimes go too far. And sometimes you need to stop trying to be the objective scholar and say, hey, that's just not okay. Like, you don't get to do that just because you call yourself a religion. And yeah, so I feel now like I'm standing with my feet in both camps. And it's a weird feeling. And both things can be true at the same time. It can be that, I do think the research is needed. And to do research, you have to maintain you have to follow the ethical rules of methodology, the scientific method and methodology. And I get that it's very hard if you are a sociology of religion scholar and you interview one person who is a member of a group, and then you interview another person who's an ex-member of the group. How do you know which one is lying? Are they both telling the truth? Are they both lying? Is one of them lying and one telling the truth? How do you know that? So I find that this is probably the part of the course that is kind of triggering me, in that it's very hard for me to accept that people are trying to hold a neutral, objective stance in the face of something that, in my experience, has been very damaging and traumatic. So yeah, it's a weird, existential, angsty kind of feeling, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm gonna try to catch up with the chat if there's anything that needs answering. If you guys do have questions, maybe you could just add a question. But let me see. School time, people loving it. Okay, I'm glad some people like this type of content. I know it's not for everyone. In Australia, Scientology helped cover up with Children of God. Yeah, and here's another issue, because there have been other, I'm trying to remember now, but there have been other, oh, yeah, I just now remember. So nobody come after me. I'm going to say something. It might be a bit controversial, but nobody come after me. Chiropractic is the word, which sounds wrong. The chiropractic has not been proven and vetted, as far as I know, by the American Medical Association. I'm not sure. However, Scientology and chiropractic in the 1950s collaborated in order to, both get away with making claims without having medical professions and studies showing those claims. Which I just heard about today in a podcast. So do your own research, I guess. But the podcast, if you're interested, is called Oh No, Ross and Carrie. So, oh no, like, oh no. Ross, like the guy from Friends, and Carrie, like from the Stephen King movie. Oh no, Ross and Carrie. and they did a three episodes on the subject of chiropractic, which I found quite interesting. I have gone to a chiropractor myself. I went to a chiropractor a lot when I was in the Sea Org for my migraines, which did not help. But I do have scoliosis, and it happens every now and then that I go to a chiropractor, and I found those episodes quite interesting. And there was a time, I think it's the early 60s, where Scientology and chiropractic kind of teamed up to help get around making medical claims that they shouldn't be able to make. So this is kind of it's very invalidating. It makes you feel unheard. So this is the issue that I'm running into, where the scholars are trying to be objective and neutral about a subject that I cannot be objective and neutral to, because I have experienced real abuse within Scientology. And that does make me feel unseen or unheard. And it makes me despair for others, because for a long time, the victims of Scientology that were speaking up were largely unheard and unseen. Now we have a larger audience, which is awesome. But there's still... Scientology is a minority religion, but the people speaking up against Scientology is a minority in comparison to Scientology. So there's a power indifference there that makes speaking up hard. And there's lots of other reasons why speaking up is hard. And yeah, when Cece said that she was going to go to the police and report herself for being party to the abuses of children in Scientology, sorry guys, hang on. So Cece is another ex-Scientologist, and she's passed away now, but she decided to report herself to the police for her part in the abuse of children in Scientology. And when she said that, I really needed to hear that. I really needed to hear someone who was an adult at the time admit that the abuses happening to children were in fact happening. I needed someone to say that, so that it wasn't just me making it up in my head. Which I know I never was making it up in my head, but the lack of acknowledgement and the amount of gaslighting you go through as a kid in Scientology makes it hard to believe your own voice sometimes. And so sometimes reading this material makes me despair for voices that aren't being heard. And yeah, another thing that got my blood pressure boiling in this course is a term that's been coined in sociology of religion, used to describe ex-members telling their stories. And the term for me has a very... Okay, I'll just tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you what I think. And you guys let me know if I'm just being weird. I'll just answer this real quick. It's a Swedish course, but translated to English, I mean, I could bring up the correct translation, but basically it's called Children in Controversial Minority Religions. That's kind of what it's being called, yeah. But the term that's used in sociology of religion is atrocity tales. So atrocity just means something that's horrendous and horrible and not good. And tales is a story. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but when I think of the word tale, I don't think of a story like biographic or memoir. I think of it as something made up, like a fairy tale. And using the term atrocity tales just makes me think of made up stories of horror that people have been subjected to. And that kind of gets my blood boiling. If you're doing study of religion and sociology of religion, and you use the term atrocity tale regarding ex-members speaking to their experiences of trauma and abuse, that doesn't feel ethically okay, in my opinion. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I missed a whole bunch. A tale to me does sound like a made-up story about the situation. Yeah. This is exactly something that riled me up right when I first came across the term. And yeah. And I think words are important, right? So the words we use when we coin a word in academics, it's important to know what the connotations of the words are, to know what that will what type of meaning that will infer. Even if you get to make up your own definition in academics, you quite often, make up a term, and you always have to define it. Or you can use a pre-existing term, but you have to define it in your paper, saying, I'm using this term and this is how I'm using it. And using atrocity tales with very little consideration for the connotation that the word tale has, I think it's not ethical. It's not okay. And then there was in the section of the article that defines atrocity tales, they also pointed out that for statistically, a large number of ex-members speaking out and doing interviews, so researchers wanting to interview ex-members, are people who are currently or have been seeking help either through a support group or with a therapist or psychologist. Thus begging the question, do people who leave cults and speak out about them have underlying conditions requiring that they need a psychologist? Or is it the cult itself? And why are people who do not need support groups and therapists and psychologists helps, why are they not speaking out? Because in a majority of those speaking out, the majority of them are actually getting help. And I also found that to be very invalidating, because if somebody's, so I talked about this with my partner, because I just got really mad, and I sometimes have a hard time figuring out what's making me mad. And he said, well, imagine there's a bus crash and one person walks away from the bus crash with a few scratches. And then the reporter asks them, well, tell me about this horrific bus crash. And he goes, oh, well, wasn't the bus flipped? It wasn't that bad. Because he walked away with a few scratches. Now, let's say you have somebody who was in the same bus crash and broke 15 bones in their body and had a concussion and everything. And they spent time in the hospital and years in physical recovery, physical therapy, and so on. And when they are asked about the bus crash, it was a huge, big, atrocious thing. That's not an atrocity tale. That's just a different experience. That person is getting help because they were affected very badly. The same thing didn't affect the person not getting help because they weren't hurt badly. So yeah, that also kind of pissed me off. And I am making notes of things. I don't know what I'll do with them, but yeah, I am definitely making notes of these things as well. Okay. Oh shit, I'm really far behind now in the chat, and I'm gonna just go straight to the bottom, and then I'll work my way up a little bit. Hi Vanche, I see you. Fuzzy pink handcuffs. Hello. Oh, you guys are having a conversation. Yeah, I see love for CC here. Here we go. And Jamie, yeah, I have pre-ordered the book. I don't use Amazon, guys, because I don't approve of Amazon's work policies, but I have, you can't pre-order books through in Sweden unless it's through Amazon, which I'm not going to do, but you can sign up to be alerted as soon as they're released, which I have done, and I will be getting James' book right away. I might not read it right away because I'll still be doing this course at the time. So, and yeah, I think it's great that he's written that book and that it's going to get out there, and that he's done some interviews on some huge channels. So that's also very cool. T says she was just watching CC and gave so many people. Yeah, I think her saying that was, I don't know how to describe it, the feeling I had when she said that. A lot of Scientologists still go to chiropractors now instead of doctors. That's true. A lot of Scientologists do. A lot of not Scientologists actually, like 1 in 3 Americans have been to a chiropractor. So it's very common in America. It's not very common here in Sweden. I don't know. I don't know how common it is here in Sweden. But yeah, but chiropractic is very, very common. Yeah. Okay, there's a conversation going on between Kathy and Corn Freak, I think. I'm not going to jump in on that one, but if you guys have questions to me, then just put it again in the chat. Question: does sociology of religion only interview the religion? If so, that would be biased. No, they don't only interview the religion, the religious people, although that is their primary interest, I would say, because they want to look at how these groups are constructing their social reality, and that's what they're interested in. So they want to go to the primary source, which is people in. So yeah, there of these two books that are included, this one is exclusively ex-members, and this one is 80% current members, and then also ex-members, but not as many. So I am getting very different viewpoints between these two books. And the other books that I haven't finished reading yet, I don't know what the split is there. And included in the course is also to read a memoir from an ex-member and write a book report. And I just recently finished rereading Jenna's book. So I was, at the beginning of the course, I was like, I'm not reading anything Scientology. And then I reread Jenna's book. And I also read The Bad Cadet by Catherine Spallino. And I'll be doing my book report as a comparison between these two books, which I think is quite interesting to compare those two stories. Jenna from the Int Ranch and Catherine from the Pack Ranch, but they're pretty much the same age. One thing they do point out a lot in this book in particular is that new religious movements change very rapidly. So a kid born in 1980 will have a completely different upbringing compared to a kid born just 5 or 10 years later, because the new religious movements usually start out with 0 kids. They start out, just having a first generation, and then when the second generation comes along, they have to adjust to that generation, and then they adjust again. And they might not adjust the belief system, but they might adjust how they deal with the raising of kids. For example, there are no more cadet orgs. That's an actual fact. The views on children in Scientology are still the same, but no child being born in Scientology today will experience a cadet org because there are no more cadet orgs. So this book does talk a lot about the fact that you can do research on children in this group today, and then in 5 years you have to start over because things can change that fast. But Jenna and Catherine are the same age. The only difference between them is their last names and the physical location. So yeah, I'm going to compare that. I'm going to be comparing those. Yeah, this is something that I would struggle with as too, and I think it's very hard as I never consider myself an academic, but I have done some academics, and I have I have done courses in research methodology and ethics, and it's a very hard line to walk, and it actually came up as a discussion in one of our lectures, and the professor has spoken on the difficulty in maintaining objectivity, and this is why often you don't work as a lone researcher as well. You work in groups and stuff like that. I asked her actually at the end of a previous lecture, because there are, sometimes there will be reporters who like to infiltrate groups and pretend to become a convert and then get out and they write all the stories. Because she was talking about another researcher who had secretly recorded interviews with members and then publish that without the members' permission, which is, according to research methodology ethics, very much not allowed. And I asked her about, like undercover reporters and stuff and what her opinion on that was. And she said that that's not a method that you can do in academics. However, she did very much appreciate when that has been when that has brought things to the public eye that shouldn't be happening. And yeah, so she's like trying to maintain objectivity, being objective as the academic scholar that she is. And I think it's probably also something that she struggles with when she does see stuff, if she sees stuff that is atrocious. And yeah, I don't remember what the question was anymore, and I probably went off on a tangent. Okay, I'm going to check. Okay, so let's see. Afila says, I wouldn't necessarily take that term in a negative way, but I understand. So this is atrocity tales. Yeah. And language is like that. People attribute different things to different words. That's the way. Accounts would be better. Yeah. Atrocity accounts. I agree. Okay, Cornfreak, I just saw your comments about butterfly and worm, and I'm not going to bring it up because I'm not going to keep a straight face. And a bunch of people saying hi to each other. That's great. Thank you. OT, are you interviewing Jamie tomorrow? That is awesome. I will check your channel, what time it's going to be. But I'm actually going to be on another YouTube channel tomorrow. I am stepping huge leaps outside of my comfort zone, and I will be giving an interview on a channel all about spirituality tomorrow. It's going to be in Swedish because it's a Swedish channel, and it's definitely not my subject. But yeah, that's happening. So Wenche wants to know, what is a chiropractor? A chiropractor is somebody who, if your back hurts, they try to relieve the pain by pushing or pulling on the backbone to straighten it out. That's the most neutral way I can put it. Yeah, that's what a chiropractor is. So let's see, Afila says, SR as a topic sounds limited. So basically, yeah, it's sociology is a huge topic, and religion is a huge topic. And when you get into more finer details, and you get niched topics, and sociology of religion is somewhat of a niche topic. Let's see. Do you see FBI is doing investigation into twin flames? I did not know that. That's cool. Search warrant on their home. That's cool. I didn't know that. I wish the FBI would do a proper investigation into Scientology, because they have done an investigation in Scientology and it didn't really go anywhere. I mean, yeah, 11 people got sent to prison. But did they shut it down? No. Did Scientology gain tax-exempt status after the fact? Yes. Did they see children and do anything about that? No. So, yeah. Let's see. With Santa, it's important to note that every part of the org is different, and children's homes also, as they've changed over time. Yeah, and this is true for most minority religions as well. And that of course, not only the belief system governs how parents raise their children, it's their parents' personalities as well, and their dedication or lack of dedication to the belief system, and so on. So let's see. It's great to go out of your comfort zone sometimes. Yeah, it is, but I like my comfort zone. It's got all my stuff in it. And Kathy says, not all chiropractors are bad. Mine is the only reason I'm walking today. I'm very glad you're walking. Yeah, I do see a chiropractor once in a while, every other year or so, not often. I really don't like getting my back adjusted. It freaks me out. And I don't let him touch my neck because I've had that before and that scared the living daylight out of me. But yeah, I find that to be a tricky subject to navigate. And my back generally does feel good after I've been to the chiropractor, but never long term. But I guess that's also because I have scoliosis. So that can't be fixed with a back adjustment. So yeah, there's that. Okay, guys, I've been rambling for a while. Okay, T says, there was an FBI investigation on human trafficking. Mark and Claire Headley were informants of the FBI, but the operation got shut down. And that's... okay, I didn't know that. I've heard a little bit about FBI operation being potential and then being shut down. And I didn't know that Mark and Claire were involved in that. Though I do think they, when they can help, they help. And I think that's great. And they have told their stories and been very active, and they have helped a lot of people as well. I did read Mark's book a long time ago. And good that they were informing to the FBI. I think that's awesome. Yeah. Anyway, so I have 2 more topic cards left. I don't know if we should get into them. Do you guys want to vote on it? I have 2 topic cards left. Do you want another one, or it's been an hour now? I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. I always feel uncomfortable getting in front of the camera, and I wish that would get easier with time. It doesn't seem to be. So I don't know. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I don't think we'll do another topic card today, but I will kind of bring this up. Thank you so much, Miriam. Thanks for being here and listening. Miriam is such an awesome advocate, activist, and advocate, and she's out there every week demonstrating against, protesting against Scientology, and I think that's just brilliant. And she's also a very good friend, and I know I can call her anytime I need to, and I think that's wonderful. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I'll be doing this much longer though. I'm kind of like existentially angsty a lot lately about, and not just because of the course I'm reading right now, a little bit before as well, about YouTube, because I find it very uncomfortable to be here. But also I'm kind of tired of talking about Scientology. I spent so much of my life in Scientology, and then I spent so many years deconstructing and recovering, and now I've spent a year, not as much as I had planned to or wanted to, talking about Scientology, but I also feel like I'm kind of over it. And maybe you don't ever fully recover, but I kind of feel over it at the moment. And I don't know. And yeah, I feel a little bit like I've given so much to Scientology of my life, and I don't want to give more to fighting against Scientology. At the same time, I don't want them to win. I don't want them to feel like they won. I still, I don't know, but we'll see. I have made a list of topics I would still like to say something about, and I plan on hopefully recording the short kind of videos that I've done in the past, 20-30 minutes on one particular subject, post it and ghost it, as Elizabeth Gale has said sometimes. And then once I'm done with the list, then maybe I will bow out. I don't know, I haven't decided. But either way, thank you guys so much for being here and holding space and listening to me ramble on and on. And maybe I'll see you and maybe I won't. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to let you guys go. I got to prepare a little bit for this crazy stream that I'm going to do tomorrow. And I also have to do some studying today. Thank you guys so much. All the love to you. Make sure to take care of your mental health. That is very important. And